Whether it's on my own channel or here on the FMSCOUT channel, I've started countless saves, rebuilt countless clubs in FM24, probably way more than I should have done. I've put a lot of hours into this game, and a lot of the time I get questions from you lot in the comments asking, how do you actually be so successful with the teams you manage? What is it you do? Well, today I'll be breaking down the 5 simple things that I think you guys can implement to really get your rebuilds kicked off in the right way. Now, when I say rebuild, what do I mean? Well, it's basically any football manager save, but when we're saying rebuild, I'm more focused on the saves where you are going to be in a club long term. That's not to say that you can't use these tips for a short term save, but with a rebuild you are usually having a certain goal in mind for your team. You're not jumping ship, changing jobs every couple years into your save, you are sticking with a club, and I think by doing what I'm about to tell you, you are going to set your team up for massive success in the future. There's 5 things that I want to break down. We'll go through them point by point. If you do enjoy the video, make sure you smash the like button for us and subscribe for more. With that being said, if you do want to check out any of the rebuilds I have done, you can find it on my channel linked in the description. But yes, let's get started. The first thing that I think you should do right at the start of your rebuilds is sort your staff out. Now, there's 3 ways that you can do this. I'll give you my favourite, but what I mean by this is if you go to the staff section, you of course have your staff for, here we go, it's giving me a tutorial like I've never played it before. You'll have your staff for your first team, your recruitment team, your medical team, and then if you go to Dev Center and go to the staff section up there, once you get rid of that, you can also see your staff for the under 21s and the under 18s. Now, one way to do things is to manually go through and employ staff yourself, whether that's through the staff search screen where you can search for staff individually, or whether you just want to hire staff based on a job advert. If you don't know how to do this, if you've got a position open, for example, we've got coaches available for our under 21s, you can go down here, place advert, and then you'll have coaches come to you basically trying to apply for your job. And you could do this, and if you want to, fair play to you, you'll probably get the best results, but that does take the most time, and I think a lot of us might not want to invest that much time into it. So there's 2 other options you can follow. The first one is the one where you just give free reins to anyone at your club. You go to staff, you go to responsibilities, go to the staff section, and then when it comes to employing staff and giving your staff contracts, you can delegate this out to whoever it is. You just go ahead, let him do everything, set auto recommended staff member, hit confirm, they'll then go ahead and sort the staff at your club out for you. But both of those methods aren't ways that I'd recommend. In fact, having a good staff setup at your club is something that's super vital to your players' development and everything in between. So by getting these picks right early on in terms of finding the right staff members, you can really help your team grow and your club grow over the next few years. Now, the method that I like to use is a bit of a mixture between the 2. What I will do is I'll look at some certain positions in my staff setup that I want to sort out. Primarily, director of football. I will manually employ my own director of football. I'll go out if I'm not happy with how good a director of football is. By the way, with any staff member, the attributes he needs are highlighted. So if we look at these 3 attributes and we're not happy, we can go to the staff search screen and try and find someone better. And then I do that for a few different key positions. The one I suggest, director of football, technical director, chief scout. If you're really into your scouting, maybe you want to employ a few good scouts yourself, ones you can really trust. I would also make sure you've got a good assistant manager and head of youth development. From there, I think you can kind of leave the rest up to chance. And when I say chance, I mean that you're not going to manually employ them. You're going to do what I just mentioned, where you go to the staff screen and then you go ahead and assign your staff to find specific staff members. For example, I don't want my staff to find a director of football or a technical director, but I wouldn't mind if they went ahead and found a loan manager, a medical staff, scouting staff, for example. You can then hit confirm. Now, the reason I think this is the best method is 1, you're going to save yourself some time and a lot of tedious stuff that you might not want to do. But 2, if you get the right technical director in, the right director of football, they're going to help find some decent staff for your club. The better your technical director, for example, the better the staff that he'll find and employ. He's got better negotiating skills, so he'll get them on less wages. So once you're happy with your staff in a few positions, I then go ahead, delegate, and let them sort the rest. And before you know it, I guarantee you within a season or 2, this Crystal Palace side is currently one of the worst for staff. By the time we're a couple years in, we'll be one of the best clubs for staff in the league, almost guaranteed. Premier League, of course, is probably got some of the highest competition in the world, but if you get some decent staff members in, they'll sort the rest for you. And before you know it, you've got a great staff setup, great scouts, great medical team. That's going to help with your injuries, and then you're going to have better coaches to help with your player development, and it will all help in nurturing the right environment to create a growing club. The next thing that I will always say for you guys to do is to abuse this button right here. Go to Club Vision and make board requests. Now, many of you will know that you can go ahead and request new facilities, new training facilities, new youth recruitment, whatever it is, and they're things that over time you want to improve at a club. Of course, you want to have the best training facilities, the best youth facilities, facilities, whatever it is, you want to have the best of the best. But what I see a lot of people doing is maybe at the start of their save or at the end of the season, they'll ask for these things, they'll get rejected, and then they'll leave it there. Now, the longer you're at a club, the more chance you have these of being accepted. But what I always suggest you do is anytime this button is available, you go ahead and you click it. Whether you do it on a monthly basis, every few weeks, just check and make a request to the board. Before you know it, you will get some of these accepted. I've had it before where they say, we don't need new training facilities. 2 months later, we've had a bit of money come into the club, maybe for being in the Premier League or competing in Europe, whatever it is, and suddenly they're more than happy to invest in these things. But if I hadn't been checking this on a regular basis, I would have been waiting a whole season before I checked again and made that request, at which point we could have already had the new training facilities built. So always go ahead and try and make these board requests as often as possible. One thing to note is when you do have these facilities, it is going to drain your finances. It's not going to drain your transfer budget, but it will drain your overall balance. So if you are in a club where you really want every penny going to your transfer budget that you can, maybe don't go ahead and do this, because if we drain the balance here, we're going to get less money in the next transfer window. But realistically, if you're sticking at a club long term, those facilities are worth more than 1 or 2 extra transfers in a transfer window. If you've got better training facilities, you're going to have your players develop better. That's going to help everyone, not just 2 players coming in and affecting your team. The same for academy coaching, youth recruitment, youth facilities. The better these are, the better the new gens that will come out of your academy. Then you've got better players coming into your first team that you have to pay nothing for. So I would really make sure you're upgrading these facilities as often as possible. So you've got your staff sorted, you're making sure you're keeping those facilities going. Let's move on to the third thing that I do. And this is certainly more of a theoretical one, but I would always set some kind of vision for your club straight away. Now, if you're at a club like Palace, it might be that you want to sign young players to develop for a future. This will give you a focus from everything from the players you buy to the assignments that you send your scouts on. So I think it's really important to have a clear plan of what you want to do. If you're just willy-nilly buying whatever players seem good or have a higher star rating, if you did that, you're probably still going to have some success, but it's going to be less consistent and less rapid than it will be if you have a clear focus of what you want to do. And there isn't one way to do things. You don't just have the vision of buying young players. It might be that you buy players from a league below, develop them and sell them on for a profit. Maybe that's what you're looking to do with your club. You've got to know the goal that you're going for, if it's Premier League, if it's Champions League, if it's Championship football, whatever it might be with whatever team you're managing, and try and work out how you're going to get there. In the same way, it could be the complete opposite. You could be a team in League 2 and you don't really want to develop talent for the future, at least not in your first few seasons. There, it might be that your only goal is to hit promotion as soon as possible. So you might be buying players that are 30, 32 years of age, paying them high wages, but using that just to get your club promoted. That's fine as well, but just have that as your vision. It's easy to get sidetracked sometimes. Say you're a League 1 club in the 3rd division of English football, you see a decent wonder kid for 2 million, you go out and sign him, but it's like 2 or 3 years before he can even impact your club, at which point you might have got promoted, and then he maybe isn't even good enough to play for you anyway. It's these kind of things where having a clear focus and vision is going to help you more, because it might have been better to spend that money on some older heads that are just going to get you promoted, get you into the Premier League, and then you'll have way better wonder kids than the one that you were signing. So if you don't follow this, you're not necessarily doing anything wrong. I just think you'll have more success if you set yourself that clear vision, whether it's buying players under 23, whether it's Moneyball, signing undervalued players and selling them on for a profit. Obviously your vision can change as seasons go on. If eventually you get to the top of the Premier League, you might want to start buying players in their prime as opposed to developing talents, but either way, whatever you want to do, set yourself a vision with your club, set yourself the goal, and I promise you, you'll get there quicker than just doing things willy-nilly. So you sorted your staff out, you're going to be asking for better facilities, that's going to help the club as a whole. We focused also on setting a vision, but what about players themselves? Well, obviously I don't need to tell you guys that when you're rebuilding a club, you're going to have to sell players, you're going to have to buy players, but one thing that I would always suggest, one very helpful view I think, is to go to your general info screen, so go to your squad and then general info, sort players by wages. This will order your team based on wages. Now before anyone comments it, yes, I know none of these are real Crystal Palace players. These are all randomised names. If you don't know, you can do this in Football Manager. You can start a save with completely fake players everywhere. But yes, what I would do here, sort by wage, and one thing that I think will really help you is straight away, be ruthless, kill off any high earners that shouldn't be earning a lot of money. Straight away you can see there's some players here that are on a fair chunk of money that maybe aren't great, and even if we go higher up, there's a 2.5 star player here. I know star ratings aren't the be all and end all, but let's assume he's not as good as everyone else, but he's earning more money than many of our players are. So I'd be taking stock of these players on high wages. This team actually seems quite nicely balanced, but let's say you were managing Manchester United, for example, in season 1 or 2, you might want to start killing off those guys on high wages that really aren't helping your team. I know it sounds simple, but a lot of the time people keep a name, say Rafael Varane, because they think he's great, but then when you actually have a look and you realise just how much money you're spending on these players, I'm sure you'll have second thoughts. support. So do this, analyse the wage bill at your club, get this down, or at least get it so that it makes sense. There's no problem with having a big wage bill as long as those wages are distributed in the right way. If Kylian Mbappe is getting the most money at PSG, it makes more sense than, say, you know, Keylor Navas, their backup goalkeeper, getting the most money. So this is something I would really focus on. Like I say, this team's quite nicely balanced, but let's say we decided Martin Poulsen was earning way too much money. Go ahead, try and sell him straight away, hire an intermediary to sell him. Either way, this is something that I always do in my rebuilds. I start off by sorting by wages, and I guarantee you, even though you can't see it here at this fake Crystal Palace team, if you go to any club, sort by wages, you will find someone on an absolute massive wage packet that doesn't deserve to be. Go to Chelsea and check out what Malang Sarr's on, and I promise you, you'll realise this is happening at more clubs than you might think. The final thing, and the thing that I think is the real key to most of the success that I have in my rebuilds, is having a conveyor belt plan. Now, this is something that I've only just assigned the name conveyor belt to it about 10 minutes ago, but it's something I unconsciously did, but I think you guys should all be doing it. And you'll find this a lot if you're developing a club that maybe isn't the world's best, let's say Crystal Palace, and you're trying to turn them into a Premier League winner. You'll find a lot of the time you'll start getting interest in your players, you start losing key men, and that can set your rebuild back a few years. I mean, if you lost Elise or Eze, and maybe both of them in one window, you'd really struggle at Palace. Obviously, you'd get the money in for them, but there's a good chance you might not be able to find the right player to replace them. You might not have long enough left in the transfer window. I'm sure we've all been in that situation where on deadline day, you lose one of your best players, he gets unsettled if he doesn't leave, so you let him go, and you don't have time to find a replacement. The conveyor belt method is the way to go. And what I mean by this is for every player, it doesn't have to be every single player, mind you, but for all the players that you think would be huge losses in your team, I want you, before there's even really interest in them, to have 2 or 3 potential replacements for them already lined up. Now, it could be as simple as you've already got developing prospects at the club. Let's say Chelsea have got Reece James. If you've got interest in Reece James, you know you've got Malo Gusto coming through, so you're safe. If you don't know, you can analyse all of this in your squad planner by clicking on a certain position in your tactic and seeing the depth in each area. You can filter out under 21s, under 18s if you want to. You can even go to this best 11 report where you see the best player in every position and the best young player to get a good idea if there's a good young player coming through in each area. But this is obviously the ideal scenario where you've already got someone at the club or in your youth academy. But if that isn't the case, what I always have in my rebuilds is when I know there's interest in a player. Take Fiorentina, for example. I was doing a rebuild with them. They've got a great striker called Lucas Beltram, but he had a lot of interest in him. But what I'd already done is through scout reports in a shortlist, I already had 3 replacements lined up for him. One was my ideal one was a backup option, and one was a younger option, potentially to sign anyway, to be there already at the club to eventually succeed in. Now, one way you could do this is just set your scouts out on assignments and see who they bring back, and if you like the look of someone, let's say Zakaria Petit here, we could then highlight them as a player in our shortlist. Obviously, that's the simplest way, but another thing a lot of people don't know you can do is if we are going to lose, say, Chris Davis here, you can go to comparison and find similar players, to find some similar players to him, get them scouted, see if any of them will be good enough to reach your shortlist. On the same note, a lot of people don't know you can go to recruitment focus, create recruitment focus. You can then choose this option here, find replacement for. So if we click right back, you can go replacement for and then choose whoever our right back is. If we were fearing we were going to lose him, we can then confirm, and out there a scout will go to try and find a player with similar attributes that fits the parameters. Maybe I want to turn the potential up a little bit, whatever it is. Either way, always have these scouts going. Don't wait until a transfer window. Be finding players that you have as backups for every position. That way you'll never be caught out in the transfer market, and actually it will leave you a lot of the time thinking, you know what, if I get an offer for this player, I probably will sell him. You won't even be disappointed to lose these players because you already know the guys that you can get in to replace them. You know the cash you're going to bring in. So having a clear conveyor belt at your club is the best way to go. Obviously, in an ideal world, you've been able to sign a wonder kid for every position, and even if you lost someone in your first team, those wonder kids are ready to step up, but it's not always like that. So always have some options in your shortlist ready to go. Find players that you want for your team, and before you know it, you will have a successful club. Sort your staff out, beg for new facilities as often as you can. Just don't click that button where you say, I'm going to leave my job if you don't give me these training facilities. Never click that. It will never really work out for you unless you've been at a club for years. Have a conveyor belt plan, get rid of those high earners, and make sure you've got a clear vision for your club, and I promise you, you will have a successful rebuild in no time. If you have enjoyed the video, smash the like button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.